Welcome, everybody, today to this excellent podcast we're going to do with Tony and Sam to talk about neurodiversity and sport. We are delighted to have both of you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Charlotte Valeur, the chair of the Institute of Neurodiversity, and I would love to hear from you a little bit about yourself before we get going into the conversation.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank
you very much. So I'm Tony Holness. This is Sam Holness, my son. Sam is autistic and diagnosed when he was 3 years old. Sam is a fairly unique individual. He is a Guinness World Record holder, as you'll hear in some of the questions we're going to answer. He is the first autistic triathlete in the world to compete at the Ironman World Championships. And I'm his dad and coach. And basically, we're really happy for this opportunity to share our story and our journey with so many people. I think there is a massive opportunity that's been overlooked in the world for people who are neurodiverse and their interactions with sports.
Thank you so much. I completely agree. It really is an area that we as an organization want to look more into. We're speaking to many neurominority athletes that deserve to have just as much access as everybody else. And we're delighted, Sam, that you have managed to get so far, that you have, huge congratulations on your effort. It's delighted to see, we're delighted to see how you are doing so well.
Really, so exciting.
Thank you. Well, we have so firstly, we wanted to hear a little bit more about what is your experience of the Ironman as a neurominority individual?
That's a question. My experience of Ironman and other triathlon races has been really positive. Since I started doing Ironman events, we have introduced a category for triathletes with intellectual disabilities. I don't meet many black triathletes or those that are neurodiverse. You can't tell if someone is neurodiverse because it's an invincible disability.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think, it's something we come across so often. Occasionally we come across someone who is neurodiverse. We don't meet many minority individuals at all. And we came across, when we were in Finland recently, we met an athlete called Rachel McBride, who also has ADD. And she's been a triathlete, I think, for the last 15 years. Absolutely an amazing individual. But one of the things about the intellectual impairment, this category that they recently created, they're still following the International Paralympic Committee guidelines, which means that if you have an ID and your IQ is over 75, you still can't participate. So for someone like Sam, who's fortunate enough to go off and done a degree, he still can't participate in that category at all, and he can't compete in the Paralympics. So happily we just continue competing against neurotypical athletes, which is what we actually.
But it sounds like an area that might be worthwhile looking into a little bit more and bringing some voices together to say, look, is this the right way, or should there be some a better way to be able to compete in different spaces?
Yeah, I mean, I've been rattling on about this for the last 5-6 years, and there's been some movement, but nowhere enough.
Yeah.
And I think, to get, the ION involved, to get governments involved, to get the UN involved, would be absolutely amazing. I think it's 1% of the world's population.
Yeah.
Who has autism, and it's 15 to 20% who are neurodiverse.
Yeah. So
something needs to happen.
Enough amount of people, but even if it wasn't that big, there should still be some focus on it. And in any case, yes, we think it's anywhere between 20 and 30%. Maybe what we call a new majority today is actually a minority majority. We don't know, but as the numbers go up rapidly, we'll see. So that's definitely something to look at. So it's very interesting for us every time we meet neuro-minority individuals that are in sport. And would be really interesting to hear from you, Sam, how you keep your focus in the race.
I just keep going until the end. I look at my watch that tells me how fast I'm going and make sure that I keep up my pace. I also don't like quitting or being disqualified, so I never give up. It doesn't matter if it's raining or windy. I just keep going until I cross the finish line. I don't get easily distracted once the race starts. When I started running, I was a bit anxious, but after doing over 15 triathlons, I am a lot more confident and relaxed. I had to get used to the noise and the crowds from other competitors, but it still takes me a while to get used to new surroundings because I like to know where I'm going.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think the challenge was about sensory issues initially. So I don't know if you've ever seen a triathlon, or there's some stuff on television all the time.
Yeah.
If you want to watch a race, and aside from being in crowds when the race starts, to swimming in the sea when you don't know what's down there, is more something I'm probably more apprehensive of than is Sam. Wearing a wetsuit, rubber wetsuit, which is enclosing, in terms of sensory issues, it could be quite dramatic. I think for most, even neurotypical individuals, it could be like that. So we've been through that whole process of, learning and continuing and repeating until Sam is relaxed about this. I think when we were in Finland the other day, something I forgot about. Normally when the race starts, you swim out to a starting line and then you go. In the race in Lati, you had to jump off a pontoon.
Oh, and straight on.
And straight on. And Sam he doesn't dive into the water, and he's never jumped off a pontoon.
Yeah.
And before the race, we looked and saw the other athletes, and his face was like, I've got to jump off the pontoon. How did you feel when you had to jump into the water, Lati?
I think it made me panic.
You nearly panicked, yeah?
Yeah.
So it's the good thing is he did it.
Well done.
And he continued. And, that's another learning process for us as well, to get him to jump into, and if you've ever seen the lakes in Lati, you can't see the bottom of the lake. It's not one of these clear lakes. It's, you can't see the bottom, and it was about 3 meters deep. But he had to learn that he was going to go down and he was going to come up.
Fantastic.
And then he swam. So there's stuff like that.
I couldn't have done that. I have this fear of deep water.
Yeah.
It's like, so my panic would have been so significant. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Really well done, Sam, to jump in anyway. I commend that. So what led you to become an athlete?
I started swimming when I was 3 years old. Before I could talk, I was non-verbal until I was 6 years old. Mom and Dad encouraged me to try different sports like trampolining, archery, ice hockey, and judo. I became an athlete after doing 5K park runs on Saturday mornings, and then a few 10K and half marathon races.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think the original plan was for Sam to go into IT, because I was in IT and I tried software testing and programming and stuff. And, he's relatively competent at IT, but just not interested.
No, we have to be interested to want to do something.
You have to want to do something, yeah. And I remember trying to get him to do it, and he was, right now he can probably pull a computer down and rebuild it, but it's not his interest. It's not the key thing he wants to achieve. And then Sam started doing these races, and we really did the races and running to get Sam healthy. Because I think there's some statistics out there about life expectancy of adults who are neurodiverse. That's not very good compared to the population.
No.
And we want to get healthy, you know, get away from maybe the computer games, eat healthily as well was really important.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, he just took to sports. He just started running. He had to learn to swim, which we all do. He had to learn to cycle, and he had to learn to run, because although you see people running, you have to learn to run properly. You can't just run.
It's a technique. Yeah.
It's a process. And I think you went to St. Mary's University.
Did, yeah.
And he did a degree in sports science and coaching.
Fantastic.
And it just blossomed from there. But I think the key to this, which I always say in hindsight, is that Sam likes doing repetitive tasks and mastery.
Yeah.
And if you think about what sport is, it's repeat, 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 master. And we found that out, I think, probably in his 20s, but we didn't know early on because not a lot of it hadn't been talked about or written before.
No.
And therefore, a lot of people who are neurodiverse, a lot of athletes should be able, I'm not saying, you know, if you're physically able, you can learn and repeat to master. And it doesn't matter if it's, you know, running or bocce, any sport, darts, you know, it's a classic example, it's repeat, repeat, master. And that's how we got in it. But it was primarily about his health, primarily about learning some social skills, getting outdoors, where it all started. And this is where we are today.
Fantastic. You're such shining examples of how to get things right. And actually repeat to master is the same in everything aspect of life, isn't it? In music, arts, in leadership, you have to repeat things a lot to get to master it. And I think the people who's got the ability to repeat enough are the ones who can excel in this. If you get bored with repeating to get better, actually you won't get better, right? So I think it's really important skill to have, to want to repeat, to have the ability to repeat things and get better and better. So
I think the key is that it's innate amongst a lot of people who are neurodiverse.
Yeah.
I you know, my experience is Sam isn't thinking about it, he's just doing it.
Yeah.
He likes training, for example. And that's like, so where I would get bored, he does not get bored.
No, not when it's focus. Interest. I mean, I love corporate governance. Many people get bored with that quickly, but I love reading about it again and again and over and over. So it's one of my special interests, and I enjoy that. And that, I think, most certainly comes from being autistic as well. So it's so great to hear all these strengths, how it does help us excel, because how we are naturally built to have a strong interest in less areas actually is what makes your master. So
yeah, I also think that this is just my perspective as well from the corporate world, that all senior, the best leaders in the world are also people who want to master their field. And, you know, again, it's about repeating, modifying. I mean, I started writing a paper on, you know, double and single loop learning. That's what I use with Sam as well. So we learn, we make mistakes, we fix, we push it back in, we ask questions, and it's that continuous learning process that we actually use. And Sam's doing it, probably doesn't know I'm using that sort of science on him, but hey ho, doesn't actually matter.
If it works. So Sam, how does your neurodiversity help you achieve in sports?
Oh, my neurodiversity helps me a lot because my autism allows me to concentrate for long periods without being distracted, and I never quit. Sport has also helped me to improve my self-confidence and self-esteem, and has allowed me to do these interviews. As Dad said, sport is about reputation. I really like training. I exercise every day. It's like my full-time job. I train for 25 hours per week, doing swimming, running, or cycling and strength conditioning. My favorite is swimming. I feel much better after a workout because it takes away my boredom and makes me relaxed. maybe it's the endorphins.
That's a good one.
Yeah, so it's funny, we talk about endorphins and it's like we know it's that natural drug, the feel good side of things. And we just talked about it the other day, and Sam said maybe it's my endorphins. And I thought, yeah, maybe that's it. You know, you feel good. I think it's that sense of achieving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the sense of purpose as well.
Which builds up our own dignity as well.
Yeah.
Right. Which I think is so important. So Sam, how do you think sport has enabled you to thrive as a neurominority individual?
Oh, yeah. Being a neurodiverse minority doesn't matter. But I go to races, there are hardly any other black triathletes, and I can't tell who is neurodiverse because it's an invincible disability.
Mm.
I am happy being autistic. Doesn't matter. I just like training and doing what I do. I don't have many friends and I don't drink alcohol or party, but it doesn't matter. I don't know many other neurodiverse athletes, although there must be lots of us lots of us out there.
Absolutely. I know there is lots of us out there because we're speaking to them more and more. So thank you for that, Sam.
Yeah, I think like you, the research is quite amazing. And you know, Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Jessica Applegate, Cara McCarthy. I mean, I could go on with the list. And you know, these are successful Olympians, for example, out there, who are competing against neurotypical athletes in many instances. So the past is excellent. I just think it's the vision of coaches and employers to see the ability and taking it and converting it into this, you know, into winning mentality. The people are there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can see one day when Sam has stopped competing, because it has an age limit to it, doesn't it? But then he could be a coach. Maybe you two could be coaching together, neurominority athletes to be superior athletes, just like Sam is now.
You know, you say that the oldest Ironman triathlete is 82.
Woo! Okay, so maybe you will never stop competing, Sam.
She's 82 and doing Ironman events. So maybe there's hope for me as well. You know, you never know.
You never know. But that could also be another career alongside it, where you help other people achieve in the same way. You seem to have a good formula going here. So Sam, what do you feel in terms of how can the Ironman better help support neurominority athletes?
All of a sudden.
Well, I would tell others that want to be an athlete to go for it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do it. If my parents listen to other people, I would be a triathlete today. Just go out there and find a sport you like and master it.
Yeah, that's a good advice.
And
you back up advice on that, Tony, as a parent. It's so important for parents to hear as well how to support.
Yeah, I think from school all the way through, I think they said to us that have low expectations of Sam. They were talking about more what he couldn't do than what he could do with the right intervention. And I think that's probably the one of the key messages, that if we have the right intervention, if we have belief in these individuals, then they can all achieve great things, as opposed to excluding them from school or putting them in the slower stream.
Yeah.
I mean, remember you were at school, Sam, and they had the swimming meet, swimming gala. What happened?
Well, when I was at school, I was at school, baseball high. When the teachers asked for anyone to participate in the swimming gala, put my hand up.
Yeah.
And they asked, the teachers asked me, "Can I swim?"
you know.
Assumptions, yeah.
And Sam was the best swimmer
I know, of course.
in the class.
They make assumptions that they shouldn't make. Yeah.
And the same happened with ice skating in his school as well. And he was playing ice hockey, and you know, again, it was an inner city school, and he was the only one in his year group who could ice skate.
Yeah.
And they just had no perception. And not only that, they didn't think he understood the question, so they sent a letter home.
Yeah. They assumed, they assumed all, but and I think that is some of the barriers that we all find, these assumptions around our intellect, how we get things, maybe because we answer differently, or we don't look into people's eyes, or whatever it is that gives them this idea that we somehow can't think. I mean, I was told that I was dumb in school. I was put in a special class with 2 people and 1 teacher. The other one had dyslexia. And of course, then the rest of your peer group believe that you are dumb, and then you get treated like that throughout school. Today, I'm a professor. So, I mean, hello, what went wrong there, right? I don't think me as a 7-year-old girl went wrong. I think the teaching professionals didn't recognize my intellect. And that happens again and again. Our abilities are not being recognized very early on. And that undermines us for the rest of our lives, potentially, unless we have people around us who does recognize it, who isn't listening to all the nonsense, who just goes, no, actually, this person has a lot to give and a lot of skills that we are going to build on. And then there might be things we are struggling with, but why do we focus so much on those instead of focus on the skills? And bring that, you know, how far you have come, Sam, is fantastic. And we want everybody to have those opportunities with the right support. So well done all round. It's just such a shining example, and you are such shining role models for everybody. Also.
Wow.
So as a final question, Tony, how as a parent do you support Sam in his journey?
I think
we've heard a lot already, but I'm sure you have more.
I think Sam's benefited from being an only child, which means he's had everything and not having to compete for resources, which is quite positive. But I think for me, a couple of things. You talked about education. So Sam's mum is also a professor, an educationalist. So she saw his ability very early on.
Yeah.
And there were little things. So Sam taught himself to touch type.
Yeah.
At 40 words a minute when he was 6 years old. He has an innate ability to remember movies, directors and actors for Disney and Pixar movies.
Yeah.
So we're thinking about sending him a mastermind one day. But the other challenge with that is the things that he doesn't have any interest in, he doesn't know the answers to. Yeah. So, which is probably which is like that for most of us anyway.
It really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really
so I we play a game with Sam to ask him, when was the first Disney movie made?
It's in 1937, Snow White and Jaws.
Yeah. And who was it made by? Walt
Disney.
Walt Disney, right. And how many Shrek movies are there?
There's currently 4 Shrek movies. 2 spin-offs with Puss in Boots.
Okay, and who's Puss in Boots? Who's the actor?
That's Antonio Banderas.
And what other movies is Banderas in?
The Legend of Sorrow.
Yeah.
Sorrow.
So.
And Expendables 3.
And Expendables 3. So what I'm
Good.
The thing about this, which fascinates me, and I didn't understand it early on, is about making those network connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talk about social networks, not the ones that we use for Instagram and that sort of stuff. We're talking about networking and ideas. And I know what Sam just did would take me longer on a computer.
Yeah.
Put those things together, and that's in his mind. So he's wired differently like that, which is excellent. But I also know that for us to get Sam to where he is, and this is probably the big one, we had to learn how Sam was thinking. Yes. I call it, we stopped making Sam a mini me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we basically just, especially coaching as well. I have to really understand how to communicate with Sam. I have to slow my
Yes.
language down. I have to use more direct approaches. I have to use a very lot of visual tools as well to actually, get him. So if he's swimming, we look at a lot of videos in terms of technique. Sometimes I have to get in the water with him to show him where I want his hand physically, rather than telling him. And I know that's how he learns best.
Yes.
But I think with coaches, with corporates who have employees who are neurodiverse, it's a learning process from the very early stages of learning the best way. And the other challenge is that everyone who's neurodiverse is slightly different as well. They all learn differently.
One, then you've met one.
Yes. You've met one. And I think it's all of those things. So sometimes people say to me, do you want to set up a coaching academy for people who are neurodiverse? And I'm thinking, do you know what you're asking me to do? There's so many different ways of different people in communicating that there's no one right way.
No.
And I think the outcome of that is I use what they call in the Middle East, I call Sam a person of difference.
Yeah.
No, what's it? Not person difference. It will come back to me. But it's that he's different, and the disability isn't. It's not disability; it's just a difference, and it's not a deficit. And I suppose those are the things that I use, because he's doing things that most people are unable to actually do.
Exactly. That's really important, Tony, to keep to that differences that is present in humankind, right?
And there's so many things which are fascinating. So I think, what's the purpose of school? To get people to sit in benches in a straight line so that they can work in factories. It's not to be critical, it's not to learn, it's not to go outside and challenge. But sort of back to this, I think the key for any parent, and it doesn't matter if the child is neurodiverse or not, there's best practice here, is find that child's gift.
That's right.
Nurture it, invest in it, and grow it. And that for me is the key thing. Search for the gift. It's that sort of that boring song, search for the hero inside of me, that sort of thing. We all are blessed with something.
Yes.
And it's finding it and growing it. And I always say to parents, sometimes I get a DM from a parent, I'm saying the satisfaction of seeing your child grow and helping them to develop is the most amazing thing in the world.
It is. And it really only comes through, as you say, searching. So with where are the interests, where's our interest, where do we naturally go to? And you found it, Sam, where you just loved doing the sport. And then you had the opportunity to build that further. And I think that's, as you say, all of us would have something that we are more interested in. And if we are allowed to submerge into that, fantastic things can happen. I mean, Mozart, do we think Mozart was bogged down with, mathematics or having to read handwriting or paying the bills or cooking or cleaning? I don't think he worried about anything else but creating music. And he had an infrastructure around him that allowed him to do that. We're still listening to his music today. And I think that we need to acknowledge that throughout centuries, we have always been around with these deep special interests. And why would we not want, as humanity, to have that talent from us at the table to marvel on and to look at? So great, that's great input and great advice to all parents. Keep searching for where your child's interest is, not where you would like it to be, but where the child naturally goes as well.
Yeah.
So Sam, do you have something you would encourage athletes to do? Some advice that you feel, any word for athletes like you?
What would you tell athletes to do?
I would tell them not to get their disability stop for participating in sport.
Yeah.
Just get there. I just want to do it.
Yeah. That's a great advice. Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you so much for that, Tony. Gosh, sorry. Any last word from you, Tony?
I suppose for me, it sounds my hero. I mean, this is all very personal for me. I think we're still at the beginning of a journey, and it is a long journey. And it's, if we motivate one person to go out there and do sports, or get one parent to think that their child, that they can, or we've educated someone about what neurodiversity and autism means, then it's all the good. And
I'm sure you have done all of that already, Tony, and I hope that we spread this across the world, so there will be a lot more of your positive role modeling everywhere.
That's it. And we're doing it through sport, and because there's so many millions of people who watch or participate in sport.
Yes.
I think it's a great way to get that message out there through sport.
That's what
we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time. We really appreciate that. We can't wait to bring this out much broader and have people learning from your stories. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.